Welcome to The Scoop, NANP's monthly educational webinar series. I am your host, Andrea Granson. These webinars are recorded and everyone who registered will receive a link to the recording. NANP members can earn 1 continuing education credit for participating in Scoop webinars by taking the corresponding quiz, which can be found in the membership area of the NANP website. Today's webinar will conclude with a Q&A session. Feel free to type in your questions as we go along so that we can get to as many as possible at the end of the presentation. So let's get started. Today, our guest presenter is Melanie Polk. Melanie Polk became a transformational nutrition coach after a struggle with her own health issues. She knows firsthand the frustration of spending a tremendous amount of money and time consulting with practitioners of conventional medicine who could not deliver the needed breakthrough. After consulting with her 16th doctor, she began to understand that a different approach was needed. Through private study, she learned that for every disease and disorder, there is an underlying cause. Now she helps others with their health-related issues through the same approach. Melanie completed courses from Seeking Health Educational Institute, Institute for Transformational Nutrition, Metabolic Healing, as well as personal mentors specializing in Lyme, epigenetics, nutrigenomics, and energy healing. After attending a US enzyme seminar, Melanie began to understand how energy is a big portion of our healing journey. This is where her love and appreciation for the systemic use of enzymes began. Her greatest joy comes when a client experiences a breakthrough after a lengthy struggle like she had or feels hope for the very first time. Welcome, Melanie, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Excellent. We're looking forward to this. We've got a lot of people registered, so this is definitely a topic of interest.
Yay, I'm excited. It really is a phenomenal topic with tremendous impacts.
Yeah, so whenever you're ready, Melanie, we're all here.
All right, so today it's the critical role of enzymes, not just for digestion. See what can happen when used systemically. So if we go here, oh, hold on. I'm sorry, Andrea. Apparently I'm trying to forward it, and the way I normally forward it doesn't work on Zoom. Can you help with that real quick?
If you go into something, when you're in your PowerPoint, you should just press, can you see a little button down below?
Oh, okay, we're set. We're set.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So we're set to go. Little technical difficulty at Zoom, but
no problem.
Okay, so enzymes are the building blocks of life, and nothing in our bodies or life functions without them. Enzyme reactions provide a steady power supply to keep all systems active, functioning, and producing anti-aging and antioxidant effects, which we, of course, all love those anti-aging effects. So we have an enzyme comparison chart here, which looks at microbial and fungal enzymes compared to other types of enzymes and their pH ranges of when they function and which items they actually can break down. And if you look at the first red columns, those are both animal-based enzymes, pancreatin and pepsin. And if you look, the pancreatin has to have an enzyme, an acid base above 7, and the pepsin needs a pH below 4. And if you look below, they don't fully break down the protein, carbs, fat, fiber, and milk. There's some they work on and some they don't work on. And then if you look in the yellow highlighted area, bromelain and papain, you see that is a wider range, but it still leaves out that 0 to 3, which in some of our most acidic clients, there's tissues that would be in that range. And they don't work on carbs, fat, fiber, or milk. So that's a concern. Now, Enzymology Research Center, theirs, because they're microbial and fungal, will work in a range of 1 to 12. That's all pH ranges. And they work on protein, carbs, fat, fiber, and milk. And if you look at the bottom, Aspergillus niger, Oryzae, and other related species are what we're looking at as well. So Enzymology Research Center is located in Minneapolis, or in the Minnesota area. They created an array of enzymes available to their enzyme accounts. So these are available to many accounts. they produce for now and body ecology. Troya Perlet, though, wanted a line of extremely clean enzymes that were completely vegan-based, so they meet that 1 to 12 criteria, and free of any fillers, artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. So with this in mind, he created US Enzymes. These are also non-GMO, non-soy, and non-dairy. So they're produced through a fermentation process. This allows them to work in all of those pH ranges as I just discussed in the previous slide. Now, some may be thinking, our most sensitive clients can't tolerate fermented products. No worries. They remove that fermented portion, is strained off before they're used. So even your most sensitive clients are able to tolerate these enzymes. US enzymes are assayed, so you know the activity units. The higher the number, the fewer number of pills to get your desired amount. So with being assayed, if you look on a label and see milligrams, that's a completely different range. And so assaying shows their activity units, which shows how much they're capable of doing within the body. Potency of enzymes. The enzymes have single capsule dosages. They've researched the amount in the studies that have been conducted and then use that research to support the amount they put in each capsule so that people aren't taking 12 and 20 enzymes. It's a daily dosage, usually no more than 3 a day. They're smaller capsule sizes. They are highest enzyme potency per dose, and all formulas contain an energized trace mineral. Energized meaning they have the sacred geometry to them, and the minerals actually help activate the enzymes. As you know, many of our clients are mineral deficient, and when they're mineral deficient, the enzymes can't become activated. So by putting the minerals right there with the enzyme, you're creating a perfect place for those enzymes to become activated and do their work. And when those enzymes are activated, they produce a light. And if you go to the Tohoku Institute of Technology Bioluminescence, it'll talk a little bit more about that, as well as I'll cover it a little bit more here in just a minute. So when you're looking for enzymes, no matter what the company you're looking for, you want to be careful of contents in your enzymes. So we want to be careful of other added herbs. And this is really important because we have clients who react extremely negative to many herbs, and herbs can cause different reactions in different clients. So when you're working with your most sensitive clients, it's really important to kind of be careful which herbs you're using and how much. And so if you can separate herbs from your enzymes, you can tell which herbs the client might be reacting negatively to without having to worry about the enzyme, because enzymes usually don't have any negative reactions in our clients. So also be careful of other vitamins added in, especially folic acid and cyanocobalamin. Folic acid blocks the folate receptors on cells, and cyanide molecule from cyanocobalamin can actually break off and go to the brain. So that is not what we want. And these nutrients can also push methylation and feed pathogens you are trying to eliminate. And so this is a real catch-22 with people like, oh, but we need to support the B vitamins. Well, I can tell you from personal experience, pulling off of the folic acid, pulling off of the methylated ingredients were a big key in helping myself and many of the clients I work with getting past some of those roadblocks that were hindering them. So really think about that when you're looking for enzymes and putting them together, that we're careful of how many things we're putting in a person's body at one time. We also want to be careful of fillers and unwanted ingredients. Magnesium stearate, talc, or silicone dioxide are common excipients used when putting certain capsules together by most companies. Well, US Enzymes, they actually converted, and they use rice hulls to lubricate the capsules for US Enzyme. There's no rice protein, so no worries for rice-sensitive individuals. We have several rice-sensitive clients who use these with no problem. When you look at packaging for enzymes, what good is a great enzyme if it's not protected for its efficiency? So how many times do you see enzymes on the shelf in a plastic bottle or with all kinds of other added things in them? Well, in shipping, the bottles get exposed to many lights and frequencies. So we don't want the enzymes to be impacted by those items. Basic plastic bottles or even brown glass will not protect against these exposures. US Enzymes uses violet glass bottles that protect against the light and frequencies, keeping those enzymes potent for each individual as they get it in their hands. Another piece to look at is cotton is used in most packaging, and it can attract moisture. So at US Enzymes, they even paid close attention to not using that cotton, and instead they use desiccant and rayon, which has no negative impact on the enzymes because it doesn't absorb the moisture. And when you get moisture in with the enzymes, it does impact their potency. The bottles are inner heat and outer shrink sealed, and a bottle contains a full 31 days supply. And there's easy to flip top caps, which make it easier for everybody to just get them out. So it's just kind of paying attention to all the little details in the packaging. So moving on to some of the more information about enzymes and some of the controversies out there, there is a fact or fiction of if I give my clients enzymes, then their body will stop producing its own. This has been kind of out there in the realm for quite a while, but it is actually fiction. There are numerous studies that show this is absolutely not true. And one by Columbia University called the adaptive law of secretion. You're actually helping your clients keep a reserve for when they really need them to fight unwanted invaders, and their bodies will not stop producing enzymes. And this is a really big piece that a lot of people want to understand. Anytime I've worked with a client and they've really, out of genuine concern, want to make sure they're not stopping their body's ability to produce those enzymes. And you can look up this research study from Columbia University or many others and see that it really isn't the case. Now, if lack of protein digestion, we all agree digestive enzymes are important. We all know that, hands down. But what really causes dis-ease? We are 80% water and 17% protein. So the breaking down of proteins is crucial. As more and more information comes out about most illnesses are actually protein-based. So when you look at all of these, like dementia, other things, it's all because proteins are building up in our system in different places and causing problems. And so if you go back to proteins, they need assimilated to amino acids, and enzymes are the only way this happens. So enzymes are critical to our health. Now, when you look at enzymes, there's two enzyme categories and two ways we can use enzymes. One of them is digestive enzymes, which we are most familiar with, and we take those with food to digest the proteins, the carbs, the fat, and the fiber. Well, the other way we can use the systemic enzymes is away from food to break down proteins. And that is like 2 hours before or 2 hours after a meal is when we recommend those. And some are even recommended to take at bedtime because our bodies heal when we sleep. And so if we take those at bedtime, then it actually has the time to help catapult our bodies through that healing process. And we muscle test clients to see what is best for them. Now this next piece, astrozyme, is one of the pieces created by Enzymology Research Center. Astrozyme is included in some of the US Enzymes products and especially the digestions, which are used with meals, and they're clinically proven to aid in the following. So this is that first category of the digestive enzymes. They aid in 95% complete protein digestion, 41% increase in absorption of peptides, a 31% faster absorption of peptides, and a 60% increase in absorption of amino acids. The Astrozyme video and booklet are available on the US Enzymes website as well. It's a great video. If you have questions about Astrozyme and how it can function and help even digestion, take a minute and go look up that video and watch it because it is incredible. And there's a booklet as well that explains the Astrozyme that you can share with clients or others interested. And if you want to look at Astrozyme and what it does, this chart 1 shows the quantity of peptides absorbed increased by 41%. This just supports what we just said on the previous slide, and you can actually see how that increase occurred. And here's the chart 2, where the rate of absorption of peptides increased by more than 30%. So in just 45 minutes. So it's pretty incredible what that product can do for digestion. So our digestive system breaks down. We understand that without enzyme, digestion begins to break down. When this happens, proteins cross the intestinal barrier and begin being seen as invaders. The immune system begins spending all of its time trying to clear proteins rather than fighting the real problem, which is bacteria, viruses, etc. So we want our bodies to be able to focus on bacteria, viruses, and other things when they need to. But sometimes people eat late at night, which we as nutritionists generally recommend don't eat right before you go to bed. Well, one of the reasons is because if we eat right before we go to bed, then our body's enzymes that it has are going to be working on digesting rather than doing our healing during the night, which is fighting the bacteria and the viruses and other things in our body that need fought. So this is when we can use enzymes systemically to assist the body. So some of the roles of systemic enzymes and ways that they can be used is to control inflammation. This can be with heart-related, in our brain, it can be through our tissues, all the different places in our body where inflammation can occur. There's some specific enzymes that can be used systemically to help that. They also move garbage in and out of our cells. So if you've heard of cell danger response, this is where the cells actually can create a hardened outer shell where that it doesn't let anything in or out anymore because it's in crisis mode, so it's not letting things in or out. By using the systemic enzymes, it can also turn back on our body's response so that it's no longer shutting off the moving in and out of the cells. So that's another way that it can be very helpful. It also can protect the body from metals. So all the vaccinations that we've had that is in the limelight right now, with the mercury and the aluminum and things from the past, and just being out in the air and in our water supply, we can use systemic enzymes to help keep those flowing out of our system. It also can help with blood coagulation. So there's an enzyme called natozyme that is incredible with this and can really do a lot for that piece. Faster recovery times. So if you have clients that maybe you're using a nutrient for, or that you're trying to recover from something, that can be used as well. Troy Opperlay was actually, he does a lot of mountain climbing. He's done all the 7 peaks and pretty amazing. And he used enzymes to help his body be able to get to the top of those mountains and recover afterwards. So there's many uses even for healthy folks to be able to use systemic enzymes. They also increase the immune function. So by helping our bodies come back online and function again, our immune system can kind of regain its strength. It can improve circulation, deplaques the arteries according to Mayo, the clinic, so that was actually researched. It can also get into the bone and clear uric acid and lactic acid from deep within the bones. And it also can slow the aging process because of those anti-aging properties. So those are some more of the just amazing things that by using these enzymes away from food, we can achieve several things. So how do they do all of this? Well, I'm glad you asked. So one of the ways is by cleansing the blood of incompletely digested proteins. So remember when the proteins can come through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream where they don't belong. So at this point, we have to use systemic enzymes or something in order to break those proteins down. And enzymes are great at doing this. So these proteins can also, that are in the bloodstream, have pathogens attached to them, allowing them to hide from your immune system because your body's not going to attack that protein at the same time. So using systemic enzymes can go after these, release them, and allow our bodies to see them and then start the healing process that needs to happen. Also, enzymes can get to places in your body that medicines can't always reach. This is really key. There's a lot of things that happen throughout areas of our body, and if it's not directly connected to our digestive system, sometimes these ingredients can't get there. So, for example, the uterus, ovaries, they're really hard to get medications into or even nutrients into. And so enzymes can really get into some of these places and do a job really well. One of the things, an example of a time this was done was a client had Giardia lamblia, which is a parasite, and muscle testing showed that it was in the uterus and in the ovaries. And for those of you who aren't familiar with muscle testing, maybe come by the booth and talk to us a little bit about how we use muscle testing in order to help determine some of the uses for our enzymes with clients, because we're definitely open to that. And we used it on a client who had this Giardia lamblia in the uterus and in the ovaries. And so nattozyme, which is nattokinase, there's two forms of nattokinase, and this form's a little bit different than it's made differently. So it doesn't react to those who have that genetic component that can set them off to nattokinase. And so this person actually had that genetic piece. We were able to test them really well with the nattozyme and the serozyme together, because you have the parasite and then you have the egg. And in this scenario, the parasite and the egg tested with different frequencies. And so therefore we had to make sure we were hitting both of those frequencies in order to get this person relief. And they were having terrible menstrual cramps and other things. But by using these, we were able to actually get that person relief. So that was a pretty awesome way of using that. And it got into that place that it's really hard to get to sometimes. So pretty awesomely cool. So now I'm going to go into a couple of case studies and kind of share a little bit about these case studies, what they were, and how we use enzymes to help these people. So the first case here is a Hashimoto's case study. Now, Hashimoto's can be very tough to work with, and we can get them better, and then sometimes they kind of slide back, and then we can improve them again, and then sometimes they slide back. But with this case, we approached it a little differently because I had been exposed or introduced to the enzymes, not exposed, introduced. And so Therazyme was first used. Therazyme is an enzyme that can go in and it can clear those thyroid receptor sites and allow the thyroid hormones to get into the cells again. So just like in cell danger response, where the cells actually close off and don't let anything in or out, our receptor sites can also get things in them and not allow things through. And Therazyme worked to clear those out. We also used muscle testing to try to identify the root causing the Hashimoto's. And if you've done any of the research and looked at the studies, about some of the different pathogens that can be the root for Hashimoto's. This one was H. pylori. And at the beginning, we were using biocidin. And biocidin is very helpful, and it actually took the H. pylori down. But it retreated in the heart tree and came back out. At this point, Natozyme was tested, and it's paired well with this H. pylori that was left. And it had gone back into the heart tree is where we tested it to be. So this client has now been clear for over a year and is doing amazingly well. Following the clearance of the H. pylori in this client, we did add in some methylzyme to even out the mood of the client and meet the methyl B12 needs of the methylation cycle due to the genetic mutations that were present in this client. So this client has a combo of the A1298C mutation and the C677T mutation, one of each. So this is kind of one of those cases where they're going to need a little more B, and it varies. So this time is a time where the nutrient added to an enzyme worked beautifully because methylzyme does have B12 in it, and it is one of the only ones that contains an actual nutrient at the same time. So in this case, this person was just ecstatic at the difference, and his wife was also very pleased with the mood, the better mood of this client. So it was a great case study, worked well. Enzymes have been beautiful for this client. So the next one deals more with liver function and phases. So many of our clients struggle due to the slow liver function. And those of us that have worked with the liver phases, phase 1, 2, 3, and if you've heard Kelly Halderman's work that's come out recently on the 2.5, it's very interesting to look at these functions and how one shuts down the other. If one's slow, it impacts the other. Some people have a fast phase 1 and a slow phase 2, and so that can cause some problems as well. But with this, we were looking at the liver phase 3. And there's a newer enzyme that has been put out by US Enzymes called sulfurazyme. And Dr. Eric Bakovaj has worked with creating the formulation for this enzyme, and it's working amazing for clients. And so this sulfurazyme contains broccoli sprouts and stabilized myrosinase. That means it didn't get over a certain temperature in the processing. So in many of your broccoli sprout supplements, the myrosinase isn't stabilized, and that's a problem. But in this case, it's stabilized, and that means it'll work regardless of the MTHFR function. So whether that enzyme for them is working or not, this will work. And the sourcing of those ingredients is the best form was critical. So the one case study supported the client with 5 of each bioenzyme and sulfurazyme for 5 days. So this person came in, their intestinal lining was a mess, and they had done work and had improved it. Their food sensitivities had subsided, but they were still struggling. And so we were just trying to eliminate and help the body balance back out and get rid of the last bacteria. A couple of bacteria just kept coming back. And so we muscle tested that the brush border and the microbiome were off. And so we supported with these 5 days of bioenzyme and sulfurazyme, and then supported with 1 each per day for 4 months. And this completely rebuilt the microbiome and brush border, allowed their body to do that. And after all the pathogens had been cleared from the system. So this client had no symptoms after and was doing amazing. And they just support with the bioenzyme and sulfurazyme. So now where they're at is sulfurazyme 1 every 3 days and bioenzyme 2 per day. And eventually they keep backing off the bioenzyme. So eventually they'll be taking like a bioenzyme once every 3 days as well, because their body will regain and be able to keep their gut populated with the good bacteria. So that's really awesome and amazing ways that we've seen this actual function. Now, I mentioned bioenzyme, so I'm going to talk just a minute about what's in that and how it helps the microbiome, because we have lots of clients out there that struggle with their microbiome. And it's a blend of 13 broad spectrum super strains of probiotic bacteria that originate from 6 different genera or families. They are delivered to the lower intestinal tract via delayed release. So many of these enzymes are delayed release enzymes. They are, and they're also acid resistant capsules so that they get into the gut. Each dosage contains 50 billion CFUs. So probiotics are safe and beneficial or friendly microorganisms that provide numerous health benefits. And we all know about probiotics. So in this case, it increases the vitamin production of B2, B3, B5, B6, B12, folic acid, and biotin. So all of those can increase naturally just by giving someone who's struggling bioenzyme. So you have to be careful with those clients who you don't want to push the reproduction of pathogens yet. So you have to wait to introduce bioenzyme until they're farther along in their process of the gut rebuilding. It can decrease lactose intolerance. It's a great defense against food poisoning. It promotes healthier looking and feeling skin, because when our gut works, our skin looks better. And it increases that natural motion to keep things moving through our GI tract. And it also increases our immunity, because we know our immune system lives in our gut. And when we keep it going, then it is much happier, all of us, all the way around. So the next thing I want to talk about is how enzymes produce light. And it's a very unique source of light called bioluminescence. Yeah, it's just like the light of that firefly or lightning bugs. I remember out in the yard as a kid catching those lightning bugs and being fascinated that we could see light from their bodies. And that's exactly what enzymes produce inside of our body. We just can't see it, and we don't glow. So this is a cold light that does not produce heat. And the light is how information is transmitted at 386,000 miles per second in between the trillions of cells in the human body. Wow, yeah, 386,000 miles per second. That's pretty fast. So the more activity units in your enzymes, the more light that becomes available. So earlier when I was talking about the bioluminescence and mentioned it, this is why it was so important. And so when you have the enzymes put in, it increases light. And if you look at our DNA, they've looked at DNA under microscopes, and at the very base of the DNA is actually light. And so light brings healing to our bodies. And so it's very important to keep that production and that process going in our systems. And that's also part of why it is so anti-aging. The anti-aging components come along with with the enzymes. So efficiency is a single tablespoon or 14 grams of enzymes will completely break down a dump truck load of 4,000 pounds of egg whites. That's a lot of egg whites, a lot. So we have a lot of power in our enzymes. And so we want to use those. So we have a little bit of time here that I can kind of talk about a little bit more. And so I'd like to talk about the vaccination piece real quick, just and touch on it on an enzyme that's real effective with some of that, and a case study, another case study. I don't have a slide to show you that, but if you'll just listen in, I'll share a little bit about this. So I had a client who had some vaccinations and had autistic tendencies, and they muscle tested for still having mercury-bound mitochondria. Now, Dr. Alan Lindsley in Michigan actually taught me how to muscle test for mercury-bound mitochondria. So when people are given injections or are exposed to mercury, our bodies, of course, take that and push it and try to put it away so that it doesn't do harm to our bodies. So one of the things is you try to safely pull that out of the system and help the body clear it. Well, so this person tested and paired really well with an enzyme called Cleanzyme. And it's just this person paired well with it. We can't say that, yes, it'll always do this or anything like that. We can't make those claims. But with this specific person, they did pair well with the Cleanzyme product. And then after 2 weeks of using that enzyme at a little higher dose than normal, they came back, we retested using muscle testing to test the mitochondria function and mercury-bound mitochondria, and it was completely clear. And they reported that their symptoms had let up and eased up. And so that was huge, that they weren't having crying episodes at the drop of a hat anymore. And they were more even-tempered and just felt better about themselves and felt more positive, and like fewer things make them have to come on guard. And so it was pretty phenomenal with that piece. And then one of the other things that I personally use to kind of, as I bring a client in, is a Zyto Balance scan. And if you're not familiar with a Zyto Balance machine, it's a hand cradle with electrodes under each finger and thumb. And you put your hand on and it sends frequencies in, and then your body answers back to the software, and it records the software, the responses, and gives you the information of the stuff in our environment that is most impacting that person's body, along with the items inside their body interacting. And one of the things that can pop up on this report are vaccinations. And so we started doing some kind of pilot things with some of these clients and seeing if an enzyme would pair and work with these clients who had the vaccination reactions. And it absolutely did. Started using Sarazyme with these clients, and we were able to make some great progress with getting that vaccination to not show up on their report at all when we did the rescan later. And so usually you scan the clients every 6 to 9 weeks, and no often than that, because you want their bodies energetically to be able to work. And it was amazing at the progress that these clients showed, because then once you got the vaccinations out of the way, you could then look at water, and you could look at their food, their diet, which we as nutritionists focus on so very much. But what they eat isn't everything. We also have all of this stuff already built up in our systems, and that's where the enzymes come back into play and are able to really help us work towards a healthier person. And, we are not just what we eat. We have the mind, the body, and the spirit component that we have to connect with. And our mind component and what we were exposed to, traumas, are huge with clients coming in. And one of the things with using enzymes is clients report that some of the emotional stuff will surface, and they'll work through it with their psychologist or whoever they're working with that piece, and they actually feel freer, and they feel like it allows the layers to come to the surface. And so that's kind of exciting as well. It's not something that we've done a lot of research on yet. It's just some things we've started making contacts with some of these harder clients we're working with that have trauma and pathogens galore and are just hard to break into. And we found that by using the combination of all of these, that we're able to unlock and open that door and help get people to move forward, which is what we all want to see. We want to see those clients moving forward and benefiting and living a vibrant life again, because so many, including myself, spent years with physicians trying to find answers and trying to find what would work when everything they tried, maybe it would work for a while, but then it would stop. And, you know, many of us ended up on thyroid medications. And Ben Lynch was one of the ones who spoke about not relying on thyroid meds. And he said, I never give thyroid meds. And one of the questions I asked him, I said, well, why not? If a person's thyroid is so sluggish that they feel horrible, why wouldn't you give a thyroid med? And he said, well, because there's a root, and we got to find the root, and you've got to clear the root, and then the thyroid will come back online. And so it's interesting, as I really started watching thyroid on the Zyto balance scans, as we're using the enzymes, we started seeing that that thyroid would go away as we were using enzymes and targeting the water pieces, the food pieces, and then hitting the vaccinations, the bacteria, the viruses that showed up. And as you hit those and start working and supporting the body system, these things start clearing up. And people report, oh my gosh, I have energy. I feel great again. And they don't need those thyroid meds. And it's interesting because I actually lived on thyroid meds for a while until it started, I needed more all the time. And that's a bad cycle to get into, because then you raise the RT3 counts with your clients. And then that is a really bad scenario to be in. And that's a whole nother topic for another day with the thyroid. But enzymes have been supporting very well many of these clients. So real quick, US Enzymes, we will be at the conference in booth number 2. And we would love for you to come by, get to know Jason and myself. I will be there. We'll be able to answer questions, talk to you more about the enzymes. And you can come by if you're interested in the muscle testing component, or even information about Zyto. I don't make any money from Zyto for anything, but if you wanted to know how I use it and how I make it work and how I work these enzymes in with the protocols, because I don't use strictly enzymes, I use enzymes and other nutrients together, but the enzymes are always a big key piece in it. And so come by and see Jason or I. You can reach out to us. Our contact information is on this slide. And we are more than happy to help you understand the role of enzymes and how to use them systemically, and just try them out on a few clients and get your feet wet with them. So I thank you very much. And we're going to answer some questions here.
Oh, Melanie, that was fantastic. Thank you very, very much. So I don't see any questions coming through here. Oh, okay. Yes. What conference? Well, that's the NANP conference. That's our annual conference. It takes place every year. We move around the country. So this year we're going to be in Tucson, Arizona. So 16th of May. So coming up shortly. But thank you, Melanie. That was fantastic. So yes, US Enzymes, they will be one of the exhibitors, as there will be many exhibitors. So of course, as Melanie's mentioned, you're welcome if anyone is going to the conference to go along, say hi to Melanie, get some questions answered. You can, of course, get muscle tested. I believe, Melanie, you said that that's something you'll be doing. And I am seeing some questions coming in now. So are you, it's coming in fast. And I don't know if you can see these, Melanie, so, you know, but are you?
Can't.
You can't. Okay, no worries. I can read them out. Okay, so are you saying that folic acid and cyanosomalin can feed pathogens, and could you explain more about this? And I probably didn't pronounce that properly, but I think you know what I meant.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Can folic acid and feed?
Yeah, feed pathogens.
Yes. So they can feed the pathogens because it's nutrients. They actually use those nutrients for themselves as well, and they will actually steal them from the body and use them to multiply more quickly. And so by giving your body more of those, you're actually feeding, especially Lyme clients, they'll get worse, and you'll think, oh my gosh, why'd they tank? And they tanked because we're feeding the pathogen. And so it's horrible. We got to cut that cycle. So unfortunately, we have to pull back a little bit and go after that Lyme. And I tend to use 3 specific herbs with it, and tend to really be able to get a lot of results quickly with Lyme. But and then after getting rid of that Lyme, the bacteria, the viruses that are feeding off of those things, then you can start rebuilding that client.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because somebody's saying here, what's the best protocol for ensuring that a person is ready for this treatment, that they don't still have bacteria? Is this when the muscle testing comes in?
Yes, muscle testing comes in, and the Zytobalance is one of the ones I use to really see if the bacteria and the viruses are gone. Many times enzymes are used to go after some of those bacterias and viruses and help clear them, like the H. pylori with the Natozyme. That was a pair where we actually put an enzyme systemically used away from food in order to go after the H. pylori, because H. pylori retreats into the heart tree when you just use herbs. And so Natozyme is one of the few things that'll actually go after that and help clear that out of the system.
Oh, okay. Yeah, someone's asking if you're doing muscle testing at the conference. I don't know if you're specifically doing it, or if it's just if someone comes along. Are you offering it as something for people to come along for, or is it just as and when, and people?
If they
don't want you inundated with muscle testing.
Oh yeah. If you want to come over at the conference, we'll be more than happy. Jason knows how to muscle test, and I know how to muscle test, so we can help show you how to use those pieces. And if you sign up with US Enzymes and start using our products, we actually have some groups that we help do videos and help you through that process of knowing how to use that with your clients.
Excellent. Okay. Someone's asking, how were you able to wean off thyroid medication? I don't know if that's something you want to answer now, or if they can email you.
I can answer that. That's fine. I was able to wean off of the thyroid meds by actually going after the emotional trauma, along with there was MRSA deep on the spinal cord, and we had to go after that and release the traumatic piece, and we did that spiritually through prayer, and we were able to confirm it with muscle testing that piece had been released. And it took about 30 days for the body to fully process genetically all of that piece, but it was pretty phenomenal. And it's not the same for each person, but me personally, it was a traumatic experience from childhood that was cleared, along with the bacteria and metals that were being bound to that. So in your bodies, your emotions, your metals, bacteria, viruses can all be wound together and bound, and you have to figure out what the key piece is that needs released in order to let them all go. So this is also many times while clients who are working with counselors will come back and they're like, oh my gosh, this is back, this symptom. It's not that it's necessarily back, like more of it came up, and it was just back in the system and just flourished. It is that more was released from deep within that we couldn't see before. And so as you're healing, it'll come out layer by layer by layer. And as you get deeper, the fight gets easier because there's not as much, and it comes out and you can just kind of hit it as it's coming. So one of the things we did was I have vials, and we were using the testing vials with muscle testing to make sure everything was staying down and we had beat it. And so it's really a process. And Jason was the one that really helped me identify that pineal parathyroid connection with the emotions. So
that's fantastic.
It's really great.
It's awesome. Somebody's asking if H. pylori retreats to the heart if you use mastica.
We don't. It might work. You definitely can muscle test. Like you said, come by the booth, and we can actually talk about that. Jason is really familiar with the different herbs that can be used, but the enzymes have fewer reactions from clients. That's why we go with the Natozyme in our case. But it's not, by far, it may not be the only thing that will work, because everybody's different. And just like these enzymes, just because one enzyme works with one person for something, it may be a different enzyme that works with another person. That's why we with doctors and practitioners who are familiar and comfortable with muscle testing, it's really the best way to pair them.
That's awesome. And we got Liz Lipsky. She's asking, is the Zyto testing consistent and reliable? She's seen sort of quite a few papers that are sort of debunking its consistency.
I have seen it very consistent. I've used it for several years now. The Zyto Balance, if used properly and interpreted properly. The problem is a lot of clients out there, people out there using it, are reading it incorrectly. So you've got to look and really understand how to read the report and what the numbers mean. For example, I had a client come in and one of the numbers on the Zyto Balance was a 600. And she had some really high numbers. So that's an extreme reacting client. But you have to remember with Zyto Balance, you can't run them closer than 30 days because it does run frequencies in the body. And so you want to run it one time and get an accurate reading. Make sure the USB cables are secure. There are some pieces you have to make sure are secure, but we worked through that early on in the first month I had it, and then it has been consistent every time since.
Okay.
And it is cleared by the FDA. So the FDA has cleared it.
Yeah, you mentioned Zyto Balance. Is there more than one Zyto machine? Are you sort of pointing out one specifically?
There's different software that can be used. So there's a Zyto Compass software. It's the same hand scanner, but it's different software with different amounts of responders. So doctors and physicians actually can have access to a higher level Zyto. And the US enzymes are actually built into those. US enzymes are not built into the Zyto Balance. So I actually use my knowledge to know when to muscle test those. But the Zyto Balance is better, much better than the Compass, because it actually shows you a report that will go into the systems, the water responses. It'll show you viruses, bacteria. It won't tell you the specific ones. It just says there's a viral component showing up. There's a bacterial component showing up. And at what level, at what number. If it's a 1, 2, or a 3, then it's a very minor reaction for that person and isn't as big of an issue as something that's a 600. So, but there are different versions available.
Okay, and someone's asking, are the enzymes only available to practitioners, or are they direct, like through Emerson or other wholesale distributions?
They are wholesale. It is wholesale to practitioners. If you have HNCB certification, you qualify. So if you have gone through the certification process with the Holistic Nutrition Credentialing Board, if you are a physician, if you are a nurse, if you have to have some type of credentialing through your state, except for like the HNCB for Arkansas, I'm not required to have a license at the state level. I'm only required I can actually do anything without it. But because I have the HNCB certification, I qualified for the account. And anyone that has that can qualify. And if you have any questions about qualifying for a US Enzymes account, feel free to email me. My email is there, melanie@geneassistwellness.com or jason@usenzymes.com. Either one of us can answer those questions specifically, because everybody may have some, there are some circumstances where you might qualify and you don't think you do. So,
but just to clarify, we can only get them through US Enzymes, an account with US Enzymes. Like you can't get these through Emerson or FullScript or anything like that.
There are a few that are available through, I believe, FullScript. Okay. But to get the whole line, you would need to have the US Enzymes account.
Okay.
And it's really helpful because then you get the support of Jason, myself, or whoever is in your area that can support you through using the enzymes. And they do offer different trainings throughout the year. And there's a lot of information on their website that's protected, that once you have the account, you can access.
No, that's fantastic. I think, the training, of course, everyone I'm sure would be interested to sort of learn more about this. Okay, oh, yeah. I'm just seeing, is there one more question? I don't think anyone in this group would use folic acid or cyanocalabalin. Our methyl forms the same with feeding pathogens? I don't know if you can see that question. I'm not sure I'm understanding that question.
Say it again, our methyl?
Yeah, are methyl forms the same with feeding pathogens?
Well, what it is what you're talking about with methylfolate versus hydroxyfolate versus the different forms. All of those can feed pathogens. So you have to be careful anytime no matter whether you're using hydroxy B12 or methyl B12 or folinic acid versus methylfolate, all of that stuff can feed pathogens. So you have to be careful. I know early on in my own experience, I had to use hydroxy B12 and folinic acid at low doses because I couldn't tolerate any methyls, period. And so it really goes between the client, but all of those nutrients, no matter what they are, can feed the pathogens.
Okay, thank you. That's fantastic. Well, thank you, everyone. That brings us to the end of our discussion. So thank you all very much for attending. So next month, our guests will be Miriam Zacharias and Jessica Permatel. They're presenting the Nutritional Therapy Association's new career development course. So please mark your calendars for Thursday, June 13th, and plan on attending another great session. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Melanie. Bye for now.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.